The Margaux terroir is famous for huge, like unique soil diversity. How does this influence the wines produced at Les Combes, and what sets them apart?
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's like a quilt. I mean, we have so many different soil types in Margaux, and they're not very consistent.
Yeah.
So we have patches that are gravel and sand and have almost no water holding capacity, right? We often have
Yeah.
things like Cabernet Sauvignon and Petit Verdot planted on those. And then we have clay and different types of clay. The Merlot tends to be planted on those.
Yeah.
But we have Cabernet planted on those as well. And we're planting more Cabernet on clay. What people don't recognize is actually the best plots of Cabernet Sauvignon, like Chateau Latour, are on clay.
Oh, really?
The in clay, the vine, especially where we are in climate change, it's raining a lot less, it's warmer. The clay doesn't stress the vine as much, and it gives it the nutrients it needs and enough water. And as you know, in Bordeaux, you'll get this sort of trickle of rain throughout the growing season, which we don't really have in Napa, that keeps the vine really going. But you don't have this risk of like the vine shutting down, which can happen in sandy and gravelly soils where you don't get enough rain. You have this extreme heat. That's a real issue. And it also, each soil type and each varietal planted on the different soil types, what they produce is it's like different notes, right, in the harmony. You know, I like to compare these things to either like artwork or music, right? And you take Cabernet Sauvignon on one soil type, and it could produce like a high tone. And you take that same budwood, same rootstock, and you put it on a different soil, and now it's a bass note. If I blend these, I get harmony. So what we're doing is we're taking the different soil types that we have at Chateau Les Combes, the different varietals, different vine ages, and so forth, and we're using them to create harmony and blend those into something. You know, we have limestone, we have blue marl clay, like they have at Petrus. We have all these different soil types, and they're farmed very uniquely for their soil type and the varietal that's on them. They're harvested separately, vinified separately, and aged separately. So they have their own life, and we're going, okay, what is that note that this is producing? And at the blending table is when we try to find the harmony. That's really what it comes down to. There is no homogeneous sort of profile. They're all very, very different. And the blending sessions are incredible. I mean, we have this a big dining room in Chateau Les Combes, this massive table. And the table is wrapped all the way around with samples for us to taste. Hundreds of lots. And we're literally just we're trying to find what's the identity. And it's really interesting when you write like quick tasting notes. You have so many lots. You're not gonna write these really in detail. The way that each taste is sort of express the identity of those lots is very, very interesting in the harmony that we're trying to create. But then also there's just quality level, right? There's I always say that really high quality wine is dense, not fat. Those are very different things. You can have a very ripe, high alcohol rich wine that has no length and no density. When we're looking at wines that are going into the Grand Vin, they have to have a density to them. You know, it's that's the length. That's when you taste a glass of wine and it sits on the palate, not heavy, but it lingers right on the palate. But then we're looking at the structural elements, the texture, the tannins, the acid, just the texture in general. It's something we don't talk about enough in the wine industry because it's a very difficult thing to explain. But the texture of a wine, really, really important. That's the feel. You got to feel it, right? And that's what we're trying to find is that equilibrium, that balance where, okay, this is, in what I love about blending is you could take the same blending elements and produce 10 very different wines. All very good, incredible, but very, very different. So the question is not what is better. It's, again, that's where we find our voice. What are we trying to say here? Like I always envision one day creating a brand that has the same blending elements, but every year making completely different wines. And like starting from scratch every year and like going, I don't want to have a consistent voice. I want to come fresh and go, what do I want to say this year? Right? That would be incredible. Probably a marketing nightmare, but the intellectual approach to it it's real. We always sit down with the blending table in all of our wineries, and there's so many different directions we can go. We're trying to find what are we trying to express here.
That's an interesting approach, and it's really these two typical ways of doing it. This is the Coca-Cola style winemaking, that each vintage and everything we're trying to do the same and keep
So
the same
boring.
style and everything. Yeah, it's pretty boring, but
But you don't
yeah,
need humans for that.
yeah, it's just like automated.
We run wineries, not factories.
Yeah, that's very
When
important.
we talk about, oh, I really want just consistency, and I go, well, that's not a winery per se. It's like factory winemaking. You can do that. It's actually very, very easy to do. It's extremely easy to do. A lot of wineries, even high-end wineries, tend to do that. To me, it's that I don't need people for that. I have a recipe. You can actually do most of that with the technology today, with robots and machines.
Yeah.
And it can be
I would imagine that.
identical every year.
Yeah, I can imagine that it would be quite easy with today's technology to automate. Thanks for watching this video. You can watch the full podcast episode by clicking here, or watch another interesting video by clicking here. Let's continue the discussion in the comment section, and see you in the next one.